I'm making them laugh, yada yada. But as soon as that goes back to, okay, this is getting a little bit too crazy, same thing, hard neutral. I'm not exactly upset, but we just gotta stay focused. So I don't know how you want to do it.
How can we exaggerate the sliding scale? Because when I was with these kids, I was a performer.
Yeah.
I was not my normal self. My normal self is like a soft song and I'm floating around the classroom. I was moving. When these kids did what I wanted them to do, when our students did what I wanted them to do, I was over the top, theater actor, because you know when you're acting on stage, you're projecting your voice way louder and your movements are way more dramatic. So Mr. C, how can you really make it clear that you're happy on the sliding scale?
I'm making jokes.
His tone changes.
Sorry?
Your tone
Yeah,
changes.
tone changes.
Okay.
I have a lot of like obnoxious humor. Like I'm either obnoxious in my voices that I make.
Okay.
So like a student says, Mr. C, I said, what? So I'm just like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm obnoxious with them in that way. And then when I'm bringing it back to sliding scale, I've started to use this over the last 2 months. I just say, everyone breathe, 3 in, 3 out. And then we typically, like the voices kind of go back to, all right, we're not really doing what we're supposed to right now. We're getting a little bit out of control. Let's try to get back to whatever the thing is.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's.
No, yeah. Your correction, I want it to be a little bit harder in the neutral. So when I was talking to my kids, I didn't use my hands at all in hard neutral. We're not meeting the expectation. It's not working, I expect better. Because when you're in that casual place and you're using your hands, it still seems like Mr. C's a little bit irritated, but like everything's fine. But going from joking, yelling what across the classroom to straight up, hey, we need to get it together, that's really gonna pull it back in. So I want you to just exaggerate both of those sides, but your sliding scale sounds hilarious. Ms. Nixon, then Ms. Jackson.
Oh, okay. Do I have to stand up?
Stand in front of the class. I'll be
Okay,
there with you.
can I take your class? So for sliding scale, I start at hard neutral as well. It starts with me at the door, giving the direction. My face is already, I have RBF, so.
Good start.
So it's on at the start. So I start in hard neutral, just giving directions like, all right, go in, read the board, voice level 0, and I already have like steps. I number them, and the students read them, and I'll walk in. All right, this doesn't sound like voice level 0, and that's all I have to say. And they usually quiet down. But when they start doing what they're supposed to do, then I start. I'll start joking with them, or I'll start like using slang with them. So I'll be like, "Yes, queen. Yeah, you go, girl." Those types of things. And I'll go, "Ooh, you're quick with that one, aren't you?" Like doing things like that, like just going into like my street side.
Code switching.
I start code switching. Yeah, and then they love that. And so, but as soon as like they get too loud, I'll immediately go, "All right, so we need to calm down." 3, 2, 1, and then if someone is still off task, I usually go, we're waiting for one other person. I usually am at the front of the room when that happens, or in an aisle, and I'll just stop and I'll look at them. Like I'll be doing something, and as soon as we get too loud, I'll stop and look directly at the person, and then continue once they realize that I'm talking to them, because then students will start looking, they'll see that I stopped talking, and then they start looking at the person like, she's looking at you, like, and then we'll get back to what we're doing.
Thank you. Before we pull Ms. Jackson, I do want to reiterate, or not reiterate in general, but first I'm saying it right now. You always, in addition to you being a theater actor, for classes like this, you always want to have a visual. Ms. Manishek and I have a full system of our number line, and I used a variation of that with this one. I called them on the fly perfect points. Okay, so we went up to 5, and every time they did something perfectly that I deemed perfect, and it was never an assignment, it was always sitting up straight. 3, 2, 1. Oh, we're missing one, maybe next time. And then when we got to 5, we got 2 minutes of talking time. And it just so turned out that the students only asked me to go to the bathroom during their 2 minutes of talking time. because the class was so fast-paced and they were so set on these perfect points, they literally only remembered, but they had to go to the bathroom during their 2-3 minutes. So you wanna have some kind of visual, and it can be quick. This is something I made up, doesn't matter, okay? You can come up with something else, you can use the same thing, but you wanna have a visual aid. Really with any class, but especially an immature class that's missing these things, they need to be able to see how they are progressing. And, you know, perfect points can add up to anything else. It doesn't have to be talking time, it can be stretching time, it can be meditation, it can be one less homework problem, anything like that. Ms. Jackson?
Can I say something about
Yes.
that? I did something like that today, and so now that it worked actually. I didn't have that name, but what we did was a vocabulary game on the vocabulary, and it filled the beat. And I said, all right, so, because I had like 7 kids in my room, all the other kids were in ELD, so I was like, I can't do anything too crazy without the kids that without all of them here. So we played the game, and it's 18 questions, and I said, all right, we get 18 right, we get a B. So 16 out of 18, you get 16, 17, 18 minutes of free time. And when we did that, the kids were participating almost perfectly to get the answers correct and not talking over each other.
Make sure you also do it for behavioral things.
Yeah.
Because sometimes academically, you're not gonna do so hot because they're so far behind.
But that was part
It's
of
great
it
that you were able to gauge it.
with the behavior, because it was partly okay, we're not listening to the directions, but also not talking over each other. The only way that they could get the answer, that they could participate is if they were actually not talking over each other and things like that. So something like that, I guess.
Yeah, no, that is.
I do not do that, but I think I'm going to adopt this and do it inside my classroom, because I think it worked perfectly for me. So, this will be a part of it. It's not there yet, but it will be. So my hard neutral, I always greet my students at the door with fist bumps. So I don't even, might be a good or bad thing, but I don't be smiling. When they come to my door, I say, good morning, good afternoon, they fist bump. They go in, because I feel like that's where it starts. The way that you greet them at the door, be like, good morning, come up and know how you doing. They going in just like that. So I try to, keep that serious face on, because my expectation is for them to enter the classroom quietly, sit down and get your materials out. Get your turtle tracker, your pencil. If you have homework, get it out. By the time I come in and I'm already fist bumping that last student, you guys should be already seated and ready. For the most part, they got that part down packed. That's not where we have the difficulty yet. So my hard neutral, I think, is working for the most part, as far as how they enter when we're actually in the classroom and we get started with our actual lesson. I give the look. If I'm in the middle of something, because my whole thing is respect, and I always key in on that legit every single class period with all of my classes. When I'm up here, you respect me. When a student has the floor and they're speaking, you gotta make sure you're respecting them, noise level at a 0. And I'm just always throwing out those reminders throughout class, level 0 when someone is speaking. And if they still don't do it, I'll wait. And I stand up here with a straight face, and they know if I'm quiet and I'm up here standing, that means something is wrong, and they're looking around trying to figure out who it is or what's going on so that we can move on. So that's where my hard neutral comes in at. The sliding scale, when we're having group discussions and we just maybe read an article or something that was an informational text, I'm walking around the room. If they're getting answers right from the article and I'm asking comprehension questions, I'm dancing, I might bust a move, I might, dap somebody up, so that's where that part of it comes in at. But the minute I feel like we're getting out of control or, they're taking it a little bit too far, I bring it back and I say, I literally just stand up here and then I go through the questions up here instead of moving around the classroom and, making it as fun as it can be so that they can see the difference between the two. If we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we're answering these questions, class is flowing great. We're having a good time in here, and this is the way the class can be. But it's going to be both, not just all of this or not just all of that. So that's where I'm at. And I do use my hands a lot with them. So when you said that you don't use your hands, I'll be like, So I use my hands quite a bit. So I'm trying to tone that down just a little bit.
Just when you're in hard neutral, I'd say remove as much of the things that they love about you as possible while not making you. So I stopped singing, I stopped dancing, I stopped being super excited to see them. And a big reason that I go crazy every time I see a student outside of class, I have no time for this. Every time I go crazy, I see a student outside of a classroom. I don't know if you guys have seen me, like if I see a kid in the hall, if I see a line in the hall, I'm like dancing. I did a Soul Train line with Miss Jackson's kids outside.
I had no idea what was going on.
Because I know that when they get to you, you guys have to be in hard neutral. And so that's why I put in a lot of effort. I try to know every student's name. I try to know personal detail about them. I try to dance with them and sing with them when I see them out and about, because I want them to know that there's a time and place. And when they see a teacher, they can hang out outside, but when they get to the classroom, they need to be a certain way. So I try to make it as entertaining as possible for them outside the classroom, so you guys don't have that onus on yourselves when you're in the classroom. Unless, of course, they're doing what they're supposed to do. High impact teaching.
I'm not there.
And I can tell you why. I love you guys, but I can tell you, oh, we have Mrs. Manager.
Yes.
Come on up. Okay. You gotta advocate for yourself.
Okay, so I think, actually, here in Miss Jackson, there's a lot of similarities to what I do. So I like to greet at the door, kind of nicer, like a nice, like, good morning, or how are you, like, a positive tone. But they do, like, they're on the board every day, there's like the instructions written for how they enter my class. And then the second I meet the last person, I'm like hard neutral, like you have 30 seconds to get everything out and be ready to go. And then I'm counting down, like you're in your desk, you're at voice 0, like you're ready to go. And then when I get there, when students aren't, like I'm going around and I'm standing and like doing that proximity and making sure they're ready to go. And then when things are going well, I think my sliding scale tends to be like going around, like this group is ready to go, just those like compliments and like going closer to them, kind of like what you said, the proximity. But just like that positive like reinforcement of you're doing what you're supposed to, like good job, I love this, things like that. And then also like a big thing in my classroom is I always save the fun stuff for the end of class. Science demos, like we light things on fire, we do labs. And so we're only ever getting to those things if you're doing what you're supposed to and we're on track and you're following the expectations and the rules. So I leverage that, I guess, in that I will go back to that hard neutral and I will be like, we are not going to be doing this today if you are not following and exceeding those expectations. Had a lot of conversations about respect this week with them because there is that like talking that's happening and it's disrespectful. Some other things that I've started doing, I've done a number line that you taught me, but it's vertical and it's like, here's what we're gonna get to, but here's where we are, and if you do what you're supposed to, we're gonna get there. Another thing I started doing with 6B specifically is these things called blurt cubes, and so it's like a tangible thing that they have at their desk, and it says blurt on it, and then every time they talk when they're not supposed to, I'll go over and I'll erase the T, and then if they're still talking, I'll erase like the R. And if they don't have any letters left, there's a consequence at the end of class. But if they have all 5, then they're exceeding those expectations. They're gonna get a dojo point or a candy or a sticker or something. And 6B is super motivated by that. They want a sticker so badly. They will do anything for a sticker. And then I've also recently started this tally system with all my classes. And 6B does really well with it too, where when they don't exceed expectations, that means I have to tell them even once, like it's a voice level 0, like, because they know what it is. Then they get a tally. But if they don't have any tallies after 2 weeks, then they get a reward. And they decided those rewards, it's like an extra recess, or it's a dress down pass, or it's all these things. And that's like a visual reminder on my board as well, because I think they do really well with it. Yeah, so that's just another way where I like give them a reward and utilize that when they're doing what they're supposed to, but then it's no fun when they're not.
I would like to see more of your personality and your sliding scale.
3
to 1 compliments are great, things like that, but we want to see you. We want you to become someone the students want to be around when they are doing well. And so whatever that looks like for your personality, that's just some time for you to think. Maybe you start incorporating more of what you're interested in. Maybe you share a story with them. If they, get their 2 minutes of talk time, maybe that's 2 minutes of story time. You get to tell them about a cool science experiment or something. But I want you to put a little bit more of yourself into that sliding scale.
Okay.
Otherwise, that was great.